Welcome back to the Kudlow Report. We continue our special series called The Free Market 12-Step Path to Prosperity. Tonight, we're focusing on the top 3 game changes for the Fed and trade. I'm Larry. Step number 1 was a monetary rule for the Fed. Step 2, a reliable gold-linked dollar. Now we turn to step 3, free trade for economic growth. Free trade. Here now is Thea Lee, Deputy Chief of Staff, AFL-CIO, and CNBC contributor Carlos Gutierrez, former Commerce Secretary and former Kellogg's CEO. Hello to both of you. Thea, you know, it's good, great fun. We don't agree on this. To me, lowering tariffs is like lowering tax rates, and it is totally pro-growth. Your thought?
Well, lowering tariffs isn't really the point here. The point is that we need a trade policy that allows American workers and American businesses to succeed and to thrive in the global economy. And our trade policies up to date haven't done that. What they've done instead have been to encourage and reward companies that offshore good jobs, that take our manufacturing sector offshore. And what the end has been that we have workers who can't earn a decent living. We have whole communities that have been hollowed out. And our trade policy is contributing. It's exacerbating the problem of the lack of good jobs here in the United States, not helping.
Carlos Gutierrez, former Commerce Secretary, deeply involved in trade. You heard what Thea said. What's your reaction, please?
Well, you know, the administration has set up a goal to double exports in the next 5 years, which I think is the right goal. The problem is they have the wrong plan. Thea talked about our trade policy. We don't have a trade policy. We have 3 free trade agreements that have been held up for 3 years. South Korea, Colombia, and Panama. We have trade wars going on with Mexico. We have problems with Canada. In the meantime, every country I can think of is cutting as many free trade agreements as they can. So we're standing still and everyone else is moving forward. That's going to cost us jobs.
Thea, I want to ask you, as I said, consumers can shop around for the best quality goods at the lowest possible prices anywhere in the world under a free trade rule. Why is that bad? That is the most pro-consumer thing in the world.
Well, it's fine to have access to cheap goods, but it's also another thing to have a decent job. And you can't be a good consumer if you don't have a decent job. And I think the point is about whether the rules for producers are fair in this country, whether we have a level playing field. And if other countries are violating trade rules, they're manipulating their currency, they're illegally subsidizing their exports, what's happening is that American manufacturers get the short end of the stick and American workers can't outsource themselves. We have to find a good job right here on American soil. And our trade rules have made it impossible for us to do that. So it's really about the rules of competition and whether they are fair to American workers and to American businesses, or whether right now what we've done is set up rules that are good for multinational corporations and let them move jobs all over the globe. They make tons of money, but we can't even get this recovery off the ground because there aren't good jobs here.
Us, right? I don't have enough time tonight. Okay. Carlos, I want to go to you on this point because it's a very important point. Competitiveness is benefited by free trade. We don't want to protect failing industries the way Europe did. And Carlos, I thought during the really high tide of free trade, which was the Mexican and Canadian NAFTA free trade agreements, we created about, what, 17 million jobs in the 80s and over 20 million jobs in the 90s? I don't understand what Thea is getting at here.
Well, and Larry, if you go back 15 years before NAFTA, 15 years after NAFTA, the numbers are very clear. You know, Thea makes a good point. We should have rules. And the way to have rules is by having free trade agreements. We should have as many free trade agreements as we can. A lot of the examples that Thea was talking about pertain to China. We don't have a free trade agreement with China. If you go back to the year 2000 and add up all the free trade agreements that we've done, we have a trade surplus because free trade agreements allow you to set up rules and monitor them. That's the answer. But we're standing still.
Thea, with that in mind, are the steel workers right? They're bringing a suit on one of these safeguard issues because they say China is unfairly subsidizing so-called green energy technology, even though don't we subsidize them too? But do you want us to sue China?
The steelworkers are absolutely right, and they've done the right thing. They're going to hold China accountable, and they want China to live up to the rules of the international trading system. China is violating those rules by subsidizing exporters, by discriminating against U.S. companies, and by limiting the exports of key products. And so you can't have a trading system where countries violate the rules and nobody holds them accountable. And the question is whether we have the right rules in place and whether we're doing everything we can to enforce them. And that's what we need to do a better job of.
Carlos, give you the last word. Do we need a trade war war with China right now?
We don't need a trade war with anyone. We have enough trade wars. We're following the process. We should go through with it. But we need to pass the free trade agreement with Korea. That'll add competition to China.
Right.
We need to expand.
I'm going to leave it there. I think free trade is one of the most pro-growth things possible. Thea Lee and Mr. Carlos Gutierrez, thanks to both of you. Coming up, my last word. Please stay with us.